So
Welcome
talk.
back to Talk Jamaica, streaming live on talkjamaicaradio.com. My name is Ricardo Brooks. My co-host this afternoon is Ralston Chamberlain, Public Relations and Digital Account Executive at CGR Communications. Kingsley Morgan recently wrote a satirical letter to Prime Minister Andrew Holness, which has gone viral. Good afternoon, Mr. Morgan. How are you doing?
For having me.
All right, no problem. So, writing. How does a marketer get involved in writing satirical letters to the Prime Minister of Jamaica?
Well, writing for me started, I think, about high school, about the 10th grade. I had to do a Mother's Day. Well, I tried my hand at a Mother's Day story, and I was the first runner up. So that's when I knew I could write. I could put words together and amaze people and win something. But then it wasn't until about sixth form when I had to do communication studies and I had to write stories and poems. Mark you, I was studying sciences at St. George's College and I got a chance to do com studies and then writing the stories and writing the poems. I fell in love with communications and so I switched completely from the sciences and went to UE and went to Climax. So writing has always been a part of me, even though I do marketing and PR professionally.
hmm So, I'm sorry, Kingsley. I was reading something. So, you have a passion for writing. You got this tax break and you thought to write to the Prime Minister. Did you expect him to read it?
Ricardo, I did not expect him to have the time of the day to read a 500 word informal letter from a Kingsley Morgan on Facebook. Not at all.
hmm And this is satire, and I know it might be lost on some people, the humor, because of course there are aspects of the letter that appear to be mocking the situation. Uh, can you explain to me, Kingsley, why you chose satire, and were you ever afraid that the message would be lost on some Jamaicans?
So one, I chose satire because the Prime Minister, he's a different kind of leader to me. He's social media savvy, he's into technology, he's okay with, leading conversations on social media. On top of that, he oftentimes does, a few comical posts. I remember one time he made a post about his desert Clarks and, something like that. And so I thought it fit. I thought it fit into to say, hey, Mr. P, thank you. But, it's like when you find $100 in your pocket when you're going to do laundry. And you're like, you earn $100,000 a month. But for some reason, this extra $100 that you found in your pocket just gives you a renewed and refreshed feeling like, hey, you're rich again. And so I thought, it would be funny. I thought he'd find it funny, as was evident in his response that he found it humorous, right?
Right.
And two, was I afraid? I know politics is a sensitive issue in Jamaica, and I know that people, this camaraderie between the green and the orange and whatever. But I wasn't afraid of the criticism. I knew no one will always find what you do relatable or funny in my case. And so I expected to get some stick from it. I expected some criticism. Not the magnitude to which it went, but I expected something.
Right. And of course, in the talk what we put people on the spot, and many Jamaicans must be wondering, Kingsley Morgan, are you a Labourite?
Regarding what I would say is that good policy is good policy, and I support good policy wherever it comes from.
All right, spoken like a marketer. So the girls will tell me, and they have told me, that men who write are rare. It's a rare thing for men to have a command and grasp of words. And so the people want to know, Kingsley, since writing and going viral with your tax break letter, what's the response been like from the ladies? How are they? How are they responding to Kingsley Morgan, the writer extraordinaire?
Everyone has their fair share of attention. I wouldn't say it has increased significantly since writing the post. Um, to be honest, I don't even consider my readers to be fans. I consider them to be friends. And I see it as a book club. And so whenever I write something and it's received well, I think that, hey, today I scored 10 points in the book club. And next week a friend will score 10 points and we'll compete against each other at getting better at it. So the ladies are going to be the ladies and they're going to talk, they're going to say hi and all that. But it hasn't increased, it hasn't been my focus. Everything is just fine in that regard.
Okay. And do you plan on taking writing beyond just satire? Is it something that you intend to do professionally, full time? How are you viewing the future in writing?
Well, actually, Ricardo, I always consider the writing to be a leisure activity. It's something, I document my experiences through Facebook statuses and tweets and Instagram posts. But up until I made that post, I always wanted some sort of visibility for my skill. But up until that post to the PM went viral, I started thinking, do I commercialize this? Do I monetize it? Do I use it as another source of income?
Hmm.
And so I've been flirting with the idea, what happens next? As an account executive, you live in a fast-paced environment, and so
Hmm.
there's no telling when two clients will want two ideas at the same time, and there's no telling when 10 clients will want to launch 10 campaigns within the same week. So my time is not mine all the time,
Hmm.
right? And so it's a decision. How do I approach the writing? When do I approach the writing? Do I go professionally? Do I partner with someone and do it on the weekend? Do I try to get it into my busy schedule? So the next step really will be announced when it happens.
Hmm. All right, and we're waiting for that big reveal. Let's talk about the Taxi Chronicle, which was some of your first social media driven writing. And I'm getting
Yeah.
some comments here from our listeners. They want to know if it's a true story or just made up entirely from imagination.
Okay, so the first taxi story was the Sherman Chronicles. It was actually from a real experience.
Hmm.
I had just started my new job in a new area,
Hmm.
and the transportation was a bit of a challenge for me. In that I wanted to get to work on time, but on time meant I'd have to be at the bus stop at 8 o'clock, and that's when everyone wants to get to work. And so it was a challenge to get into the taxi. It was a challenge to get to half a tree, and then from half a tree to go up, and then a lot of things. And so I tried to commandeer a personal driver, and he had a dilapidated vehicle. I couldn't afford a Garage Pro, so I had to go with whatever was available.
Well,
And
now
he
I
was
can see why the
unreliable.
taxpayer money means so much to you.
Exactly. Right? He was unreliable. His car was unreliable. He lied a lot about where he was and when he was coming. And so, funny enough, I just made one post in the same satire tone. I was like, guys, if you take me to work, I will give you bananas for free. I will wipe your screen. I will pay the gas station with your money. And it was a funny approach.
Hmm.
But then when I got the personal drive and I made that update and say, hey guys, you know what, forget you, I'm fine, I'm doing this on my own. People wanted to know what was happening next and next and next, and so they wanted an update every day. And so I was like, you know what, let me give you an update every day. So that was entirely based on a true story.
Hmm. Okay. So uh in terms of disappointments, because as you said, you really did take a lot of flack for persons misunderstanding satire with that letter to the Prime Minister. You have a way, one of our listeners is saying, of making light of these disappointments. Is that a
Uh-huh.
strategy that you generally use for dealing with issues?
Uh, yes, yes, that is a strategy I use to handle situations. Growing up, I considered anger to be a useless emotion. I consider anger to be an emotion that doesn't really change the outcome. It
Mm-hmm.
adds very little input and it doesn't affect the outcome.
Right.
So if it's that, it's going to rain and you get angry, it's still going to rain. And that's it.
Mm-hmm.
You won't get to go out, it's going to rain. And so because of that approach growing up, I've always taken the comical, satirical approach to situations. And I try not to let it affect me too much. And so
Right.
if I can't see the resolution to the problem, if I can't see how it can be fixed, you know what? Let's just move on. That's a dead end. Spilled milk. Let's move on. And so that's how I lead my life.
Right. Your family, mommy, daddy. I know you have two brothers. Have they read the stories, and what's their reaction to them?
Oh, they read. Mommy is my number one supporter. She literally take my stories and she sends them to her friends all over America, here in Jamaica, all over. And they're like, read this. And when they read it, she's like, yo, you read it? You like it? And if they
Mm-hmm.
don't like it, she's like, you know what? Okay, fine. I'm not send the lady then no more stories.
Mm-hmm.
And so she has been my number one cheerleader. Daddy is somewhat of a quiet supporter, but he's there and he's like, you know what, son, do what you're doing. I love it. My two brothers they react the same. And so
Mm-hmm.
everyone is in my corner, pumping me forward. Hey Kingsley, you are the writer here. We are naturally funny. You got this comedic element from us, but you are just expressing it through writing. So big up yourself. Go on, do what you do. So
All
that's it.
right. And Kingsley, a lot of times, as I said earlier, young men are not encouraged to read, to write, and to express themselves, whether it be through satire, but generally not encouraged to express themselves through words because it's seen as feminine. No,
Yeah.
I know you play football. What's that? What's the name of that side? Manchester United, I think, is the name.
The biggest
You
club
get
in the world.
you get very emotional about them. So you clearly
Yes.
have found a way to balance your legitimate masculinity with
Yes.
writing. For little boys who are listening and who may have a passion for words and writing, but feel that they'll be judged for showing that, what would you say to them?
I say go at it. I say people appreciate good talent. People appreciate raw skill. People appreciate whatever quality. If it's of great quality, people will appreciate it. So it's always important to strike a balance. You cannot be able to speak well and cannot write well. You cannot be able to write well and can't speak well. You can't be able to play football well and cannot communicate in an interview why you love football or write in a status why you love football. And so I
Hmm.
say make it a multifaceted approach in any career at all.
Hmm.
So your job, your plans, I mean, as a doctor, your job is not to write. Your job is to ensure that the body is working. But then
Hmm.
what if you want to write a thesis? What if you want to start a column in the newspaper? And so communication will always be a relevant tool in society. Everything, no matter how much social media or technology is on the rise, everything has to be communicated. That is the platform on which everyone knows what's happening. That's the platform on which everyone sends a message out. So if you can master that skill, you will always be in demand. You will always be the person that someone comes and say, hey, let's do this. Let's get this done. How do I say it? Why should I say it? All right. So I say, youngsters, people my age, older people who are interested in writing, go at it. Make it happen, make it good, and people will appreciate it.
Make it happen, make it good, and people will appreciate it. I think that's a good way for us to close. Kingsley Morgan, listeners, is his name. If you haven't read it yet, find it, look for it, search for it. It's a letter to Prime Minister Holness, thanking him for the prosperity. The comrades call it taxperity. Kingsley Morgan, can I thank you for joining us?
Thank you, Ricardo, for having me.
All right, not a problem.